grew up a very poor child, in and out of foster homes. So school was everything to me, and my teachers were everything. And so I am an overachiever and excelled greatly because I wanted that acceptance and that reward, which was school, and getting those A's meant everything. I am an English major. I was in speech and debate. Speech has been everything to me in my life. I grew up around Black folks and Hispanic people down by the border in California. And so I have a varied experience. They were there and saved my life on many occasions. I really think that it's time that as white Americans or any Americans of any race, that we stand together and give the folks the reparations that I really, truly think they deserve. I haven't felt this all my life. I've just come to this decision. I really feel that the system has been stacked against them to the point that there is no chance for them to get up in society unless they've had some kind of external chance or exception to the rule. I think that if they're born under the same circumstance that I was, which was a white girl in the ghetto, I had a much better chance of getting out and staying out than they do. I think the economics mixed in with the drugs and the prison system that we have and the abuse that goes on and the separation of families. I think that a lot of the men have been emasculated, and they just are never going to be able to be equal to the white men because the white men are still in charge of the system. Well, when I was married to my son's father, it was the 80s, and I was treated like I was nothing but white trash. I was talked down to. When I was away from him, let's say he was at work and I was at the park with my baby, I would have white people say things to me like, "Oh, where'd you get your son? I've been looking for one like that for years." One time we were flying to Hawaii and my son was 2 at the time and he didn't want to sit still. It's a 5-hour flight. And I had a family say, "I don't know how people like you even afford to fly to Hawaii." Now, I don't come from a family that was prejudiced. I don't. Not one of them were prejudiced when I married the Black man. It was more neighbors and strangers and people that just say things along the way. And still to this day, they do. When my son comes to visit me as a grown man or they see my grandchildren, they'll say things, little comments. Like, when is it going to be over? When is everybody's children and grandchildren just going to be treated the same? They're just innocent children. Why can't we just love everybody? I think that the people have been treated so bad. I think that they've been lied to and cheated, and they deserve their 40 acres and 40 mules. I believe they deserve the money they were promised and they never got, and it won't make up for what has been done to them, but I think it will go a long way with showing them that somebody cares and somebody is standing up for them. There's a song that Elvis sang called "In the Ghetto," which means that if we don't help those hungry children and help them see better days and do things to show that we care about them, they're going to grow up to be angry young men one day, and they'll rob and steal, and they'll do what they have to get the money. They won't care about us if we don't care about them. We can go and get loans. They can't. They still can't. They still have to go to the white man for everything. They should have Black-owned banks at the top. You know, I mean, it's a start with what we're doing, but it's a long way still to go. I was almost killed 3 years ago because I helped someone, a younger African-American that I believed in. And my mind still hasn't changed. I think what he did to me was because he was so abused also. One person here and there helping them doesn't change what we've done. We need to make arrangements to make that right. My mother was a mentally ill woman. When I came home from school, I never knew what I was going to find. She was so severely mentally ill that she was always trying to take her life. I stayed at school as long as they would let me, honestly. And when I came home from school, these neighbor ladies knew I was hungry. They knew. They would say, and they didn't have extra. They were poor, just like me, but they would say, come over here and make a plate. They didn't have to do that, but that's who they are. Hispanic mothers and Black mothers in the ghetto that nobody talks about. All they talk about is how bad they are. That's not true. They look out to make sure the other children aren't molested, that they're fed, but I want the world to know it because it goes on. We've got to stop with putting all these stereotypes on folks because they're poor. That's number one. Just because someone's poor doesn't mean that they're bad people. Okay? We can't help where we're born or who we're born into. They're in church, they're begging God, they're hanging on to faith and hope that one day God's going to save them. You can go into any Black home and they will welcome you in there. They're waiting for us to do the right thing in their lifetime. And I saw your program come out and it said, what is America I want? The America I want is that when something happens and the police describe the perpetrator, they describe the clothing. They treat people different. They just do. When people got their hands up and they're running away, why are we shooting them? Not unless we do a reparations. I think if we did reparations, that would go a long way. I think they would be so shocked. They would just be like, oh my God, they do love us. They do love us. We are part of America. Yeah. Why not? Why are we giving it to Afghanistan? Why are we giving it to Syria? Why are we giving it to all these places? Why not give it to our brothers and sisters? They're in church crying to God for generations and I've seen it. I've been there. I walk into the only Black churches. And you know what they tell people when they say, who's that white lady? They say, that's not a white lady. That's Terri.